Dear viewers, in this session we will see the asynchronous learning and the tools for asynchronous learning. The structure of the session will be like this. We will see what are the learning outcome for this session, and what is the asynchronous learning, and what are the advantage and disadvantage of asynchronous learning, and what are the strategy need to follow for asynchronous learning. Then we will discuss what are the points need to be followed by the facilitator, the learners for the asynchronous learning. And lastly, we will see the asynchronous learning tools, how we can use for asynchronous learning, and we will summarize the session. So, the learning outcomes are, after attending this video session, you will able to discuss the concept of asynchronous learning, explain how to engage learners in asynchronous learning, discuss different tools used for asynchronous learning, and identify the suitable asynchronous learning tools with usability and what are the limitations. So, let us start with what is asynchronous learning. According to the Richard 2009, the asynchronous, which means not at the same time. The asynchronous allows the learner to complete the web-based training on his own time and schedule without live interaction with the instruction. So, here there is no live interaction, that means there is no interaction between teacher and the student and at same time, same pace. So, asynchronous type of classes are completely opposite of synchronous classes, which means that the instructor does not need to be present, therefore allowing the learner to learn at any time and at their convenience. So, here the freedom is with the learners, so learner can learn the subject anytime at their place, at their convenience. What are the characteristics and benefit of asynchronous learning? Learners can contribute the discussion as they desire without interrupting the flow of the planned class time. The extended time allows the discussion to end at their natural conclusion. Responses in asynchronous online discussion tend to include higher order thinking and reflection due to the extended time available to comment on other posting. For example, if the student want to read the synchronous read the discussion, whatever happened with their peer group, they can read their own pace and their own timing, and they can reflect on their the concept which are discussing in the discussion group. And archived discussion is one of the most important component of asynchronous learning, because the student can view the archived discussion which they have not participated or they have already participated. So, the previous discussion and chat they can read it, and then they can relying on the memory or note to recall what they have contributed. Archives also create opportunity for the course learners to build up prior discussion and enable those who missed a chat or later they can get the benefit from the discussion. Asynchronous learning and the benefits are based on the experiences. The depth of the student engagement tend to be greater because participants interact more with one another. In the real time situation, the interaction may be very less because it will be limited to the particular time, but when it is asynchronous learning, the time limit is not there. The student can participate their own timing and they can interact with the other peer group, and they can participate in the discussion also. So, ongoing dialogue engages the learners, the higher order thinking, as the discussion built over the time. So, they can learn from the peer group what they have discussed on this particular topic, or what will be the outcome, how the teacher is commented on the peer group interaction. So, these are the benefits the learner can get from the asynchronous learning. In an online learning environment, all the learners contribute to the discussion. Even if they are normally a shy student can also contribute because they are in the face-to-face situation. So, some student may not interact in the face-to-face situation, but they can write in the discussion group. So, the online environment, more interaction will be take place in the asynchronous learning, because as this is the build up in the where suppose if the course started, then the student can participate throughout the course in the various discussion forum to take part in the dialogue, or as well as discuss with the peer group and learn from the others interaction also. The play field, that means the play field means in the discussion forum, leveled for all the learners and allowing them for extended time to reflect and decrease the pressure to be performed on spot. In addition, some people communicate better in writing. Some may not able to express on spot, but they can write when they get more time. They think and write what they have to reflect on that particular particular discussion or particular topic or particular issues. For example, the teacher has to, or the instructor has to perform very active in the asynchronous learning, because they are allowing the student to express themselves or reflecting on particular issue. So, here the teacher has to monitor all the students, how they are interacting and how they can manage in the discussion forum. According to my experience, some of the students may not come forward to reflect on the discussion forum. In this case, the instructor can plan for some grade or some mark for discussion in the asynchronous mode, so that all the student will come forward, and in order to get the mark or grade, they will participate in the discussion forum, and later it will be a habit, or they will enjoy in reflecting the issues, or enjoy reflecting their thoughts in the discussion forum. So, what are the challenges and consideration for implementing the asynchronous learning in the online course? Employ strategy to facilitate activities to guide the learning and promote higher order thinking, and having an active presence in the discussion. So, mostly this discussion they used to call in the asynchronous learning, where the student will come forward very actively and present the issues or present the topic in the discussion forum, and maintain the momentum in discussion and provide the frequent feedback by the teacher or by the learner also. So, sometimes in some online courses, the student is forced to give at least 2 feedback to the peer group, that in this way they will learn how to participate in the asynchronous learning or how to participate in the discussion forum. So, redirect the topic of conversation back to the course content if discussion get off track. So, this is the way the teacher has to monitor the student. If the student is going off the track in the discussion or beyond the content what they have to discuss in the group, what are the conversation they have to take place in the group, if the student is deviating from that particular topic, the teacher has to take back them and bring back to the track to discuss on the particular topic. So, as I said that if you are planning for any asynchronous discussion forum or asynchronous learning environment, then the monitor is very important, because you are giving space to the student to interact themselves and give the reflection on particular topic. So, sometimes that if the misconception is happening, then student will deviate from the discussion and they will go off track to the discussion. So, here the role of the teacher is very important to monitor the discussion forum or monitoring the asynchronous learning. And this will encourage the learners who stop communicating to and we can bring back them to contribute in that particular topic. So, asynchronous learning, what are the advantages for that? So, the advantages are it is flexible, it is convenient to the student and as well as the instructor, time to process information and formulate the responses, on spot the students, many students cannot write on spot, they have to formulate, they have to think what they have to write in the response to that particular topic or particular issues or particular reflection. So, we are giving time to them to reflect on that particular concept, and it is a learner centered, it is indirect learning, because it's all are based on the learner's interaction. So, that the teacher is only raising the concept, raising the issue or raising that what they have to do, and the teacher will provide the structured environment. The discussion will be in how many words or how to participate, all the instruction will be given to the student, and all the peer group will interact themselves to get the conclusion or get the reflection. So, peer interaction is very much happening in this asynchronous learning, and complete flexibility in the class schedule. Class schedule is very much scheduled, will be there, this particular 1 hour class or otherwise 1.5 hours class on this particular time and this particular date. But whereas in the asynchronous learning, it will be completely flexible, the student can anytime, some student can be able to reflect their thoughts in early morning and some may be work on in the late evening. So, it depends on learners' flexibility when they want to reflect on that particular concept. And facilitated and the self-paced, this is all are the self-paced interaction. So, the student have to plan for self planning and self pace and to work on this particular topic. And less social learning environment, because they are not going for the movement or they are not gathering in there, but it is online they are gathering and reflecting on that particular component. And increase the learner's ability to process the information, that is we are moving towards the cognitive participation. If they want to reflect on particular topic, then they have to think and formulate, and they have to organize their concept, organize their thinking before reflecting on that particular concept. What are the disadvantages for asynchronous learning? It is a slow feedback, because if I am writing today, since this flexibility is there, the peer group may reflect on tomorrow or they can reflect on their own pace. Similarly, with the faculty also, the instructor also, they will take their own pace to reflect on this one. So, feedback, it's in asynchronous learning, instant feedback is not possible. So, feedback will be slow. And lack of sense of community, because that immediately interaction, that may be a not live community practice, it will be the maybe the offline interaction, that is why the student cannot be on spot, they may not be communicate with each other. and it required lot of self motivation and self organized for asynchronous learning. If they are not motivated themselves, they cannot organize their component to reflect that is there. So for self motivation will be there, even the teacher or facilitator has to motivate them to interact in this synchronous learning. So interaction is limited to written communication. Here some people may be in the oral and they can reflect immediately, but here in the asynchronous learning mostly designed in the written communication only. They have to write and reflect their thinking or responses. There is no much media is involving. This may be one or two media, mostly text based media is used because they have to write it. Nowadays there are some other medias also is used in the discussion forum. They can record their voice and post it. Audio communication also possible. Sometimes some discussion or some asynchronous learning asks the learners to present their thing, so they can record the video and then put it in the discussion forum. These are that it depends on the content of the topic or content of the discussion. For example, if they want to discuss on the literature part or in the language part, then the discussion may be in the audio format. They will the pronunciation and then how the accent and will be there. Then they can record it and then put it in the discussion forum. If it is a visual arts like a performing arts and all, then the video component is more prominent in for their discussion. So if visual arts and performing arts kind of subject can use the video component for their discussion. They have to record it and then they can upload in the discussion component also. But majority is mainly focusing on the text based medium will be used in the asynchronous learning. And what are the strategy for asynchronous learning is it provides the calendar or timeline. Because even though if it is open, even though if it is their self-paced discussion forum or self-paced reflection, but there should be a time limit. So we have to inform that we have to provide the calendar or time limit. For example, this discussion will start from today to 1 week. So within that period, the student has to reflect their concept and then they have to give the feedback to the other peer group interaction. So they have to read all the peer discussion and reflect on that. So depends on how the teacher is facilitating, how the teacher is designing the asynchronous learning, then you have to define the timeline also. So learner collaboration for discussion, because this is collaborative learning will be happening in this asynchronous learning. Because that's why we are focusing on the higher order thinking, where they have to think and collaborate with the other learners to produce the reflection or provide the concept, whatever they have learned from synchronous or otherwise learned from the text material. And open-ended questions, most of the time that synchronous learning is based on open-ended questions by the facilitator, because on-spot multiple choice or filling the blanks or will lead to the assessment part. Open-ended question will be facilitated to reflect on the particular concept. So teacher or facilitate can raise the component. They have to design for how the student can reflect on this particular question. So based on the reflection, maybe the facilitator can give some scenario. So based on the scenario, student will reflect on that particular scenario and they will build upon that scenario to provide the concrete output on that particular question. And what are the strategy for facilitator? This is indirect learning. So asynchronous learning is mostly we used to call as a indirect learning, because student centric instruction will be there. We have to facilitate the student how they are interacting on that particular discussion forum. And also the facilitator has to track the learner to the participation, because some of the student may not participate in the discussion forum. So this the facilitator's role is to bring the learner on track to participate in the asynchronous learning. And learner, they have to set the goal, because they have to be a self motivation, they have to maintain the self paced and the particular self motivation, so that they can answer the question at any time, but within the time frame, within the timeline. They have to reflect back, and also they have to read the archived discussion to reflect on that, their own reflection, to present their reflection. So synchronous learning, why, when, how we can use the synchronous learning. So when we have to use, reflecting on the complex issue, because we are bringing the student to the higher order thinking according to the Bloom's taxonomy. So higher order thinking will be the maximum, will lead to the deep learning. So we have to plan for reflection on the complex issue. And when synchronous meeting cannot be scheduled because of some work or family and other commitment, then asynchronous learning can be planned for that particular situation. And why we need it? The student have more time to reflect, because the sender does not expect immediate answer. So if there is no immediate response from the learner, then we can plan for the asynchronous learning on take more time to reflect. And how to use it? So when I use the asynchronous means, we can use through email, discussion board and blogs. These are the some of the tools we can use to for the asynchronous learning. For example, students are expected to reflect individually on course topic, may be asked to maintain a blog. If they want to write a reflection, then blog can be created and each student can maintain their reflection on that particular blog. And students are expected to share reflection regarding the course topic and critically assess their peer idea, may be asked to participate in online discussion or online discussion forum. So what are the tools used for discussion asynchronous learning? Maybe a blog board, blogging, email, message boards, online bulletin boards, threaded discussion and web based environment. So these are the some of the component we can tools we can use for the asynchronous learning. And what are the usability and limitation we can discuss here? See, for example, if we are using for the discussion forum, that will be the collaboration and sharing of idea over certain time period. We can use for this discussion forum. The limitation for the discussion forum are maybe take longer time to arrive at the discussion or conclusion. So because each participant will reflect on their own time, so to conclude the topic it will take time to conclude the topic. Weblogs or blogs is dissemination of idea and comments. Using this blog we can disseminate the ideas and comments, but the limitation for the blogs are maybe take longer time to arrive the conclusion. Messaging through email is the distribution of course material on one-to-one or one-to-many basis. We can use email. Email is used to send the messages to the individually or as well as the group to the student for the common information to the all or one. Or otherwise if you want to send some material to the student to read that one, then email also used for that. But it is difficult to get instant reply mails especially from the large classrooms. So suppose if we want the email will be seen by their own time and place where they are sitting. So instant immediate reply cannot be received from the email. If they are online, then immediately they can reply, but replying the email will take time. And streaming audio, the lecture delivery through the playback, and it is a static, does not cater for the interaction. Similarly, streaming video, the lecture can be delivered to the delivered through playback, means they can play their own timing and their own pace. This is also static, we cannot interact with the streaming video also. Narrated slideshows, so this is also student can view at their own timing, play their slideshow at their own timing. This is also static, we cannot interact with the slideshow, or suppose if you are narrated slideshow if you are providing, we cannot use for the interaction purpose. And document libraries is tracking of learning resources. The document, if you are providing some libraries using the online environment, the student can track for their learning resources, but adequate management of shortage of media are highly needed here. Databases, repository and management of learning and teaching learning resources are arranged in their database, but here we have to record a proper management for each and every one. E-books also available for asynchronous learning. This will be used for supplement to for the teaching learning material, and this is also static, we cannot expect the interaction in the e-books also. Survey and polls are used for evaluating the teaching trend and performance, but it required a clear definition and proper coordination to manage the surveys and polls. Similarly, shared calendars can also used for asynchronous learning. For if you want to particular sharing the calendar, then they have to regularly monitoring and coordinating with the activities, so that they can used for the shared calendar for the maintaining the timing or maintaining the timeline for that particular activity. And also it will be we have to manage the time zone for completing the activity. Websites links are there, we can use for the additional resources for asynchronous learning, and if movement of web resources may be lead to the non availability of the resources for which you are pointing for. That means if you are referring the any web link for the asynchronous learning, before giving to the student, you have to check it whether the web link or resources are available in the proper link, whether they have moved to the other place or something. You have to, before giving to the web links and websites, the facilitator has to read it, and then only they have to give the resources to the learners. So these are the video streaming. The learner can, the facilitator can record the video and give it to the learners. If it is a complex topic, then the student can go through the video and then they can reflect on the discussion forum, or they can learn from the video. And these are the discussion forum. The threaded discussion forum will be there. The student and peer group will discuss according to the concept or the topic raised by the facilitator. As I already informed to you that if you are raising any discussion forum, if you are planning any discussion forum, the facilitator should be always there with the peer group or with the student, so that they can monitor the peers, monitor the student whether they are going off track or they are on track to discuss on the topic. Email also one of the asynchronous learning environment learning tool, where we can communicate with the student, or we can get the reply from the learners or reply from the facilitator in order to facilitate or in order to get the information. let us summarize this topic. Asynchronous means it's not at the same time. Allow the student or learners to complete the web-based training on his own time and schedule without live interaction with the instructor. The advantages are flexible, convenient, time to process information and formulate the responses, learner centered because it is indirect learning, peer interaction, complex, complete the flexibility class schedule, facilitated and self-paced, increase the learner's ability to process the information towards the cognitive participation. There are some disadvantages: slow feedback, lack of sense of community, requires self-motivation, interaction is limited to the written communication. One type of media is used, that is maximum text based media is used in the discussion or used in the asynchronous learning. Asynchronous learning could be presented using wide range of tools like a blackboard, blogging, email, messaging board, online bulletin board, threaded discussion and web based. These are some of the references. Thank you.